Well, Kamala Harris, who repeats her sentences over and over and over with zero originality, has announced her first major policy. But it just sounded oh so familiar.
Because when I get to office, we are going to not charge taxes on tips, people making tips.
Eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
Yes, next week she'll be ready to tell us she's ready to build a wall. Now, we know Kamala isn't the brightest spark, as again revealed in these inspiring words.
And we are smart, and we know what's happening, and we're not falling for the gaslighting, and we're not falling for the okie doke.
Yeah, she really has been burdened by what has been, hasn't she? Joining me now is the host of Prime Time with Alex Stein, the man himself. Alex Stein, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Why can't Kamala string a proper sentence together? She's now ripping off Donald Trump and coming up with lines that she probably got from Compliments for Dummies.
Well, it's obvious that Kamala Harris is a puppet. She doesn't have one original idea. That's why she has to plagiarize Donald Trump. And let's be real, I don't even think Kamala Harris is smart enough to change the battery in her smoke detector. I mean, she is just not able to do much else. I mean, besides steal and plagiarize. So, you know, she's not the brightest bulb, as we say here in America. And I think we're going to be in big trouble if she wins. And sadly, I think that's actually a strong possibility considering the outcome of the last election.
Yeah, it certainly is a big concern. Now, this is truly bizarre. New vision has surfaced of Tim Walz telling a congressional committee that he suffers from PTSD from serving in Afghanistan.
And both of you, with your keen understanding of how this works, especially from National Guard families, I can tell you this, having been one of those that came back, we were in support of OEF, but sitting in there with OIF veterans, when we came back, they showed us the horse whisperer and told us to be nice when we went home. And that was the extent of it. That was in 2004. Now, I'm proud to say that because of the people sitting in here and people who came before me, things have changed.
Alex, the problem here is he never served in Afghanistan. There seems to be serious discrepancies with his military record.
Well, on your great Lefties Losing It segment, you guys called him Tampon Tim, but I call him No Balls Walls because he went and served in Europe. He's never been to Afghanistan. I mean, he's a complete fraud. But considering Joe Biden lied all the time about his college record and how well he did in law school, it's pretty typical of a Democrat to lie about their service and about their resume. So I'm not shocked that a politician is a liar. And it's sad that, you know, people are accusing him of stolen valor because he did spend, 24 years in the National Guard. So he did serve. But just the fact that he has to lie shows you that he'll lie about anything because he already did pay his dues. And now he has to just, he should be called Twisted Tim Walz because he's always twisting the story.
Yeah, clearly. And also have a look at CNN. Tim Walz's former military superior has had an interview cut short by the broadcaster for so-called, quote, technical difficulties as soon as he actually starts speaking the truth. Look at this.
As far as being a command sergeant major, as soon as he retired, or I'm going to go with the term retired, which he did, and he was eligible after 20 years to get a full retirement. He was taken out of the academy at that time. Here's another thing about.
Well, Sergeant Major, I do want to hear that. I do want to hear what you have to say, Sergeant Major. I know I want to be sensitive of your time, and your audio is beginning to break up just a little bit. But I do want to thank you because I think you've clarified a lot for people and given more information. The question now is how the voters will evaluate it.
Alex, the lefty media covered up for Joe Biden for so long. We know they love a cover-up. Is history repeating itself here?
Well, 100%. But you know what the worst part, the most egregious part about that is the fact that she had to totally lie. Her producer is in her ear saying, shut it down, shut it down. And she has to come up with a lie that the connection is bad when it's perfectly crystal clear. So this just shows you the type of media that we get here in America. It's just always a biased lie that they even lie about having technical difficulties because they don't want the truth to get out. So it's actually very scary. It feels like 1984 sometimes when you see that a woman can't even ask a question and the guy can't even answer it all the way without a producer shutting it down because it doesn't fit the official narrative. So very scary if you really look at that.
Yeah, it is scary, and it's also very embarrassing. It just seems like, history is repeating itself. Now, JD Vance made some really strong remarks about Tim Walz's alleged military history. This is what he said.
Why did Kamala Harris choose a person who has lied about their military service? I think that is a serious lapse in judgment, and I don't want to hear from a campaign spokesperson of Kamala Harris. I want to hear Kamala Harris herself address what I just said.
And then he demolished CNN host Dana Bash for her line of questioning.
You've now asked me 3 questions about comments that I made 3 years ago. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she supported policies that opened the American southern border. I wonder what Kamala Harris thinks about the fact that she lied to the American people about Joe Biden's mental facility for the office. You are interviewing me, Dana, because I respect the American people enough to sit down for an interview.
I appreciate that.
Kamala Harris has been the nominee for 3 weeks. She hasn't sat down for a real interview.
Believe me, we are asking. You're not going to get a disagreement there.
But the point is, Dana, you've got me for 15 minutes or however long you have me. We should be talking about public policies that matter. How are we going to lower inflation? How are we going to reduce the cost of food and housing? How are we going to close down that southern border? We've talked so little about that. We've talked a lot more about a sarcastic remark I made 3 years ago. I think we should talk about the issues that most Americans care about.
Alex, does JD Vance have a point here? He's fronting up while Kamala is MIA. She won't do any interviews or answer serious questions.
Well, Kamala is not qualified to speak extemporaneously just off the top of her head, so she's not going to do very well in a situation where she has to answer actually hard questions, questions that are not going to be pre-planned. So I don't think that it benefits her at all to be in front of the media whatsoever. So once she actually has to debate Donald Trump, the country will see how incompetent Kamala Harris really is. And now she covered up for Joe Biden this whole entire time, and she's not going to be able to cover up for herself when she actually has to answer some tough questions.
Absolutely, she does. It's appalling that she still hasn't. Now, speaking of cover-ups, Joe Biden is still hanging in there, determined to remain president until November. God knows why. The New York Times writes, for a few weeks, the media coverage of the Biden White House built up the idea that there was a major scandal here, implicating the inner circle that encouraged the president to run for re-election and practiced deception amid his obvious decline. Alex, the reality is this is an old man still in charge of the country. That scandal in itself has not gone away.
No, and it's actually kind of sad. Even though I'm a conservative, when Joe Biden fell off his bike in Delaware, it made my heart hurt. And so, knowing that he's a feeble, elderly man, I'm actually happy that he's at the beach. That's really where he should be. We know that he hasn't been the president basically his whole entire term. So it's really not a surprise. I mean, I would like him to step down, but at this point, just let him rest. The guy's 81. I feel bad. I'm empathetic to Joe Biden at this point because our country is such a mess. Certainly he can't fix it, and Kamala can't either. So I guess just let it implode until people start paying attention on what's really happening.
Yeah, look, I mean, the guy just fell asleep. He was tired on the beach. He's just saying, let him go, for goodness sake. I don't know why he's not stepping down, but he just wanted to have a rest. Now, look, you have confronted the mayor of Dallas for allegedly cheating on his wife and for not condemning Dallas Police Sergeant Arturo Martinez, who posted "Aim Better" after the Trump assassination attempt. This is what you said.
So you're a fraud, just like how you cheated on your wife and you got caught on the doorbell camera. Remember that one in your divorce proceedings? Remember that one? And you want to be a Republican, but now those kids are being raised by a single mom. We had Arturo Martinez, a sergeant of the Dallas Police Department, for 14 years, saying that he should have aimed better. Thomas Brooks, the assassin, should have aimed better. I think that's pretty disgusting that our police force, some of the highest people in the police force, the sergeant, says it's okay for a president to be assassinated. Cops aren't supposed to have political viewpoints. All right, so now you want to be a fake Republican, that's cool, but you were the first one to make us wear masks. You were the first one vaccinated. I'm not going to forget that, okay? I know who you really are, and you're trying to placate us. That's not going to work with a pimp on a blimp, so I'm going to call you out. Just like you cheated on your wife, now you're trying to cheat on the Republican Party. It disgusts me that you're trying to do that. You have no integrity.
Alex, I got to say, you're on fire.
Well, I am fired up because the mayor of Dallas is a fraud. He basically has always been a Democrat, shut us down during COVID, was the first person to shut us down and open vaccine clinics and wear a mask and, make it very hard for people to speak at these public meetings. And now all of a sudden he's a Republican because he wants to run for senator in John Cornyn's seat that's about to become open in a very conservative district. So it's just obvious that if he would cheat on his wife, which that's all been exposed in his divorce, that he's going to cheat on the Republican Party. And that's what frustrates me more is just, at least AOC admits that she's a crazy liberal. I don't like these guys that flip flop and act like Kamala, the chameleon, that don't actually be that aren't them actual authentic self. And that's what Mayor Johnson is. He's a fraud and he's a chameleon. And I have to keep calling him out because he hasn't condemned Arturo Martinez, who was a sergeant for 14 years, who said the president should have been assassinated. So this is what's happening in Dallas. And I'm going to be at the police commission on Tuesday calling out Chief Eddie Garcia for not firing Arturo Martinez, who's still on paid leave.
Good on you for speaking up and good on you for keeping all these people on your toes. We need more people like you out there, Alex Stein. Good to have you on. Thanks for joining us.